Hey everyone, I'm Joe Wilcox, and I'm running the stream for Stacy tonight.
I'm Sidney Rauchberger.
David Spalinski.
And Steve Polge.
Today we're talking a lot about levels, and we're going to do a project update, so we'll get right to Steve.
So just to talk a little bit about what's going on right now, we still have our designers like Sid and Dave are working on new shells and improving their existing shells. In terms of programming, we put out we're going to try to put out builds on approximately a weekly basis. Our goal is to get them out around every Thursday night or Friday, depending on when we get a build that we feel is stable enough to put out. This past week we added Linux, and this coming week we're hoping to also add a Mac build. So if you guys are on those platforms, we'd love to get feedback. We've added a Windows troubleshooting forum, and we also have Mac and Linux forums for people to provide feedback on issues they find on those platforms. In terms of what we're working on, we're still working on weapon tweaks and movement tweaks. I revisited impact jumping this week, and now there's basically 2 levels of impact jumping that have different heights and different damage they provide. We did a pass on lifts. Hopefully they'll work significantly better now. I'm not sure they're bug-free yet, but at least won't be completely broken. I know Joe started working on server browsing, so hopefully we're not too far away from that. That'll make it a lot easier for people
Everybody's
to
life gets easier
play
that
online.
day.
Yeah, and there's lots of other stuff we're working on, but I think that's all I can think of right now. We still wanted to bring back up, mention again, we have the programming Trello board, which shows you the things we're working on and plan to work on, and also the areas where we need community help. We're also in the process right now of getting content Trello board set up so that the content guys can see what the best ways for them to contribute are and what the areas we're focusing on right now are. And with that, I'll give it over to our designers to take a look at some levels.
All right, so as opposed to showing a shell that's actually already playable, this time around, since I didn't get to it in time, basically I'm going to take a look at a work-in-progress CTF shell that I've been working on, because I kind of know that everybody to some degree is more or less tired of playing phase. Since
Never.
Since it's highly polarizing, at least, to say the least.
So that wasn't a new map for this?
I don't know.
No deja vu there, yeah.
Basically, since the previous 2 shells that I made, I'd kind of try hitting all the basic themes that we have in the game. So first castle, then space techie, and so this time I tried to go for something industrial. What you're looking at here is the flag base. That's where the flag spawns. What I really tried to do is kind of have lots of viable routes in here for different low, high, and mid-ground attacks on the flag. Actually, let me just jump in and run around a little bit. So from the flag here, you can see you kind of have a shortcut up here that you can cut through to the midsection.
And you're still in the flag base.
Yeah, this is all still flag base right here, right?
I assume that's hammerable, so if you're coming
You
back,
can hammer up
come
there,
through
yep,
there.
totally. I don't know why that's off center, but shield belt up there. You can also snag the flag, if you can actually pull this move off. Oh, wait. Okay. 3rd time. All right, so you can totally make it out of here with the impact hammer, and it's kind of supposed to be a high-risk escape, maneuver, because you're super spammable in there.
There's those back exits.
Yeah. The whole underground part here is kind of twofold. Basically, all the features of the base were sort of built with attackers and defenders in mind. So if you're an attacker, you can try and sneak up on the flag room from underneath. Take an elevator up, get it. You can try sneaking out the back with the flag again. Get some health down here. The other thing that's nice about this is if you're holding the flag, your flag is gone. The idea is that you can, kind of use this as a
lot of good angles for cover.
Spot, right? So it's still risky to hold the flag down here if yours is gone, because obviously the other team's trying to get it back, but.
And the other team can translocate through those grates down there.
Yep. So yeah, you could combo people through these grates too if you see a flag carrier down there and whatnot. And then on the low escape part here, if there's one underground area that loops back around to the front entrance, this is going to feel a bit mazy just looking at it for the first time. But so you have this route cutting up to this one exit, which also connects back around on this side. So if you're taking that low route to escape, you kind of have a little bit more cover, and you have another chance to replenish some health over here.
There's
But you're
also sound cues that tell people.
Water sound cues, very important.
Yeah.
But you're basically giving the defenders a chance to catch up with you by taking that longer route. On the right side here, it's sort of similar in the notion that I kind of have an optional longer path going on the side here that allows you to kind of stock up a little bit if you're low, but it's going to, obviously take you more time to get through here. And right now I just kind of threw the armor in here, but all that stuff is item placement again is super temp, right? I'm still actually working on finishing out the layout for first version to test.
I really like how you're using skill moves to avoid those lifts, so you don't have to wait for the lift. So if you're chasing somebody and he hits up that lift, you don't have to worry about the old, oh boy, no, wait for it to come back down.
This is actually, this is not the speed either that it's really supposed to be initially, but it's basically just giving you options, right? You do the predictable thing, or you try and do the sneaky thing. Kind of a similar thing with this vent that's going on here. You can dodge up on that and decide to escape this way, or you can impact your way back over here. If you
I really like the whole
enough.
options for the flag carrier are, on their path home. It's a whole bunch of branching options for risk and reward, and or play it safe. And depending on whether you've taken damage, do you change your mind halfway?
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to is everything kind of branches off but funnels back together, and also along the way you sort of get chances to catch glimpses of flag runners potentially. So this is going to have me loop around a bit again. But if I had taken, say, the high escape route over here, then first of all, you can glance down to the lower entrance, but then also you get another glance down here, see what's going on, back into the base, and also another glance into this other arm of the map. So if you were a flag runner, you'd kind of give people a chance to see where you were going. And basically what I wanted is, if your flag's gone missing and you're trying to hunt down the flag carrier, as long as you try and hustle to the midfield, you should kind of get a chance at some point to intercept him or catch up and try and figure out where he is. And as you can see, all this stuff super work in progress. I haven't even gotten to mirroring the map over yet. I'm still kind of
But this is the middle. This is, as you can see by the indicators, this is the midfield.
Still trying to figure out what to do with the midfield specifically, but one idea here was that you have kind of these divergent paths. So if you took that route, you could kind of decide to cut back into the middle at the penalty of having to swim through some water.
I like it. My only concern is it might be a little big. You're going to need a lot of players.
It's definitely big, but the run distances aren't even that far once it comes down to it. But yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out and make adjustments accordingly. But the idea behind this outer path was that you kind of have the super visible island hop going on.
But there's power-ups.
Yeah.
And that's for the big. It's okay to have 6 and 8 and 10 player maps too. I'm not against that. It's just 5v5 on this. I think it'll be cavernous. But I really like the look.
But yeah,
so obviously the bases would repeat. You're going for symmetrical.
This is going to go for axis symmetry. So we're looking at the middle right here, cutting through. Tried thinking about point symmetry, but really what I liked about axis symmetry for this is that it's giving me a better opportunity to have unique landmarks on each side as opposed to repeating things twice.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea, because this sort of lily pad section is so unique that if you had it twice, it would just sort of diminish it a little bit.
Yeah. And then again, this would be this other entrance that we looked at earlier from the flag. Also tried adding some cute little things here where you can kind of wait it out, jump up, dodge up from the lift.
I like your choice here for the sniper spot compared to what you were looking at before, which was a separated sort of sniper post that felt like it was going to be...
let me jump back in the editor. Easier to tell from up here, but this whole section connects back up to this bit, and initially I was toying with the idea of just kind of adding like a stereotypical sniper window perch sort of thing in here, but it just kind of felt too disconnected, too hard to spot anybody in there, and at the same time, also, I didn't want to make that a viable escape route. So you can't really make the window big enough for somebody to drop out with the flag, which then makes it harder to see people who are actually standing up there sniping because you need to restrict that size so much of that window.
Yeah. You also don't want players down at the bottom trying to, like for the 5th time, shoot their translocator in through the little tiny, sliver of a window.
What this also helps with is funnel people towards the midfield to snipe it out as opposed to staying back in their bases, right? So you get better traffic over this area. People have to come out and commit, be visible from the other side over here. If you were to imagine the reverse situation of that, if there was a base over here, right? Like, actually get a nicer view of what's going on, snipe in on people. But
nice simulated zoom there. I think the change that you added with the jump pad in the middle is going to allow people to take this sort of outside water route and then make changes, psych people out. And did you decide, are you going to add a jump pad to this section too?
I'm not sure I'm going to connect this yet. I have some plans for the midfield for what I want to do. If that's going to include an actual jump pad back to that location, I'm not sure. You can also actually reach it just by dodging off of this platform.
Yeah, that might be, that's probably enough.
You could do a bit of back and forth, hop down, go back up kind of thing. But yeah, kind of random. I was going to totally show off my art skills here and also show kind of what brought this map together initially, because I had started with the base just as a, straight up in the editor. And after that, I was kind of struggling, figuring out what I wanted to do with the midfield. So one night at home, I just kind of started sketching out some ideas for what I wanted to do, and it sort of grew into that. And you can kind of see where it stayed true to it and where it ended up diverging from it as well. Like this little bit over here, I funneled back into just keeping it a Y section over here because it's sort of added another extra unnecessary entrance. And
that's still a heavily sort of under construction section, but I don't know if you actually showed that in the map, that area, that Y section area.
Oh, that right here?
Yeah.
Let's take a jump from... Basically what we're looking at was just this spot here, right? Like it diverges left and right.
It'd be cool is fly your camera up to the top and look down.
Yeah, I have to be careful not to fly out of the top here, but...
Oh, yeah.
Because previously it had sort of like the plan was to have another entrance that loops back around and comes up through here, but it started feeling just a little bit too complicated and too porous, too many options. Like I wanted a harder choke than that. And also you can still escape over to the front part of this through the same room, so I felt like that was enough to start with. I'd like to keep people visible in the midfield too, right? So who knows, in the end I might do something with this to make this see-through, maybe turn it into a glass thing so you can kind of see people dodging over to the other side platform here. Just whatever to really facilitate flag carrier visibility in the midfield and not make it so somebody can just kind of sneak away, tuck away, and do this anonymous flag run kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think it's looking great. So do we want to move on to the next one?
So
anything else you want to show?
Yeah, I guess that's something that you'll be adding to the build shortly once it gets copied over and a few of the details.
Hoping to get shortly. Hoping to get the shell playable by the end of next week. Might be sooner than that. I'm not sure, but I'll just be cautiously optimistic there. So
I can't wait.
And of course, we'll be looking for feedback from people in the forums. Please feel free once it's up there to post suggestions. I think there were good suggestions for some of the other maps that were there, and I know Sid was able to make adjustments to Sid Castle that you were happy to have the feedback, and so
yep, that's been really great, and keep it coming. It's been super useful and fun. So yeah.
I recently updated one of our test maps, DM Circuit. Not only did I rename some of them to not have very temporary test names, but also I added a new room and made some adjustments to that map. So please feel free to provide some feedback on the forums. That would be much appreciated. I know we've done a little bit of playtesting here with it, and I got like very, very sort of short feedback from Sid yesterday, which was helpful. And we're also going to try an experiment. I went and revived from the dead a CTF map that I started for UT3, and this is one that we never shipped, and so I brought the original BSP shell over using the cool conversion tools that people made, and brought it into UE4 just to see if I could, and it came over just fine, except obviously the power of 2 versus decimal grid size differences. But so I'm interested in posting this sort of incomplete map that we had started and getting feedback from people, and hopefully evolving it into something that we all like. So I'll be putting a link up for that. The map was called CTF Midgard, so I'll make a thread for that on the forums once that's added to the build. And then you guys can feel free to have at it. It was actually a asymmetrical map, which is part of the reason why we didn't end up shipping it, just because it's a lot of effort to make asymmetrical CTF good.
Should be really interesting now, though.
Yeah.
Try that.
See what we don't have any of those in the build, and the feedback could tell us, don't make it asymmetrical, make it symmetrical. We like this base more, or whatever. But that's what we'd love to hear.
Although that's, I think, one of the real opportunities with the kind of development approach we have is having the whole community be able to look at our maps and provide feedback and test them. Gives us the ability to do a lot more balancing and play testing of maps than we've ever been able to do before. And that was one of the things that really limited our ability to do asymmetric maps, was that it requires so much playtesting and balancing and really trying to explore all the different ways that people can, that people will play the maps that you don't initially expect. And so it really constrained we didn't do many of them because they were such a burden to balance. But hopefully having the community helping us will make a big difference there.
Yeah, there'll definitely be some people who will always be of the opinion, though, that as long as it's not symmetrical, it'll never be balanced, right? But that's why I think halftime is actually really interesting for that, because now you can switch sides.
Especially once we get the system in where you can completely change the look and feel, and you can really tell that you've switched sides.
Yeah. Actually, I'd argue with halftime even that it even gives the potential of intentionally imbalanced asymmetric maps, where you kind of know that
you can almost turn it into like an assault-style scenario.
Yeah, where
a little
first half you're just trying to
actually a lot of people have suggested that, using a score cap, and instead of using halftime like we have it now, one team plays to the first score cap, then you switch sides and you play to the second score cap with the time limit of the first team set. I mean, that was a nice mechanic from the original Assault, so who knows where we're going to end up with that. But
Cool
I definitely think that having the ability to switch sides in an asymmetrical map is going to be really important.
And then there's just quite simply preference, right? Because I remember playing certain maps, I don't know, Command and others, and I just liked playing one base better than the other. And I was okay with the fact that it was different experience. But obviously we want to make sure that as many people that and the way they want to play the game, that as many of the maps support that as possible. So it is a little bit harder to satisfy people with an asymmetrical map.
At the same time,
go ahead.
But at the same time, that plays into UTs being all kinds of different flavors again, right? Cause people enjoy gimmicky stuff, people enjoy hardcore stuff, people enjoy theme stuff. Like, it can be everywhere, and it's good that it's everywhere, right? You just provide value in different ways. I think it's all positive, really.
So speaking of getting feedback and giving feedback, the forums have been really active with all sorts of posts for lots of different types of content, concepts and weapons and maps, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. Sid and I have been on the forums posting, trying to give feedback as much as we can on all the different things that are under construction out there. And so we figured today we would just kind of load up a few things of note. This won't be everything. We won't be covering everyone, but we just figured we'd look at some stuff and have it on the stream.
So why don't we look at the first one? It's DSR Kinetica by Hymnal. Sorry if I got that wrong.
I'm going to prove you wrong. We're looking at DM Revel first.
You're doing it to me. All right.
This was
We went backwards there.
Yeah, we're just looking at the forum right now. This one didn't have a video posted along with it.
So this is by Num51, and I know that he or she is still working on this and has certain areas marked as under construction, but is certainly showing some real fun potential, and it seems like people are excited about it on the forums, and I know I've run around it, and it seems like there's a bunch of cool opportunities. I remember doing a couple wall dodges, some moves to like slide up a wall and then dodge to the other wall and things like that. So please keep working on it.
Looks like it has lots of cool construction going on, cool architecture. And
yep, good use of like different lighting colors to make areas pop and stuff like that.
Actually, that reminds me of one other thing I wanted to bring up too is a lot of the user maps that we've seen online to kind of just utilize the standard example map post-process and all those other sort of lighting settings that come along with it. What I'd really like to do going forward is actually create an example map to copy settings from that are good for shelling in general, just for visibility. And we turn certain things off when testing shells just because they actually enhance the experience. So
the goal should be to see what you need to be able to see while you're making it, but not have anything slow you down. Not need to, as you're editing an area, you don't need to really also need to move all the point lights and other things. Once you start adding those things in there, it's like a burden that you have to carry with you while you're editing, and it takes longer to make changes, and you're less likely to make changes.
So for the time being, until we get a good example map up, you can't go wrong by going into Spacer or Sid Castle or whatever and just grabbing the post volume out of there, copying it into your map or whichever. I mean, obviously we don't want to dictate people's taste, right? But it's just a good set of example settings and tweaks that.
Yeah, I consider it a shortcut, right? Like a shortcut to getting you working towards getting your idea down on there in the tool set. So
another thing I've noticed in a lot of the user maps that we've looked at are the overuse of the base texture too. I mean, just simply adding 1 or 2 textures to the world will help differentiate the areas. I mean, we're going to see one coming up where you can't tell the difference between the floor and the stairs, and just taking a few minutes. I remember Sid Castle, I remember one of the first playbacks we had of that. We were all like, wow, we can't see where we're going. And then the next day you came in and you textured it all. And I think that makes a huge difference in terms of these early DSP shells.
It's a bit of that, and just some basic lighting just to help define shapes and forms, right? And most commonly what you want to differentiate between is just walls and floors, right? Like those are the 2 most important bits to distinguish easily.
The one caveat I'll add to that about adding textures is the timing of that matters. So when you're ready to do some play testing, adding the textures can help. And except that there's something really nice about the basic grid, which is that it tells you what the scale of things are by looking at it. And you can know that the main checker squares are 1 meter, and you can start to base things off of that in terms of your scale. You should still add scale objects to your spaces to help you understand how big a space is versus the player versus what you understand that scale object to be in the world, whether it's a crate or a barrel or some other thing that's really easy to recognize. You could see in Sid's map that we looked at earlier, the CTF map, he had placed Malcolm characters all over the place, and he just was running around them in this when we were streaming it. But those are all helpful.
You actually forgot to bring that up too. That's a super handy tip, just to kind of get a feel to pie around in your map and look at those characters, kind of get a feel for what the distances are, potentially what you're looking at, how visible are enemies in that environment, and so forth, right? Yeah,
the thing to consider is put your camera where you expect to be in a certain situation. Let's say that you were building a sniper post, perch in your map. Put your camera where you think the sniper is going to be, and then put a character model where you think you're going to shoot at people, and then look at how much percentage of the screen that character model uses. And if it's like a couple pixels, then maybe your map scale is too large. And if they're too close, you can make adjustments and push it back or whatever. But those are definitely things to consider, because pixel hunting isn't really fun.
It's a super useful exercise we use all the time, really. Yeah. I'd want to jump to the next.
Let's go.
All right, so now we're going to watch Ars Kinetica?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Now we're on track.
You're correct.
We must be on track.
So we're gonna we have the threads here in the stream, and we've also got some of the videos that the map authors have provided. Like a lot of guys have been posting to YouTube, which is great for sharing on the forums, and I think that's helped a lot of people get feedback. Obviously, we encourage people to post a download link to their map to get additional feedback. But if you don't think your map's ready or whatever, a video is better than nothing, or better than pictures for sure. So Ars Kinetica.
Yeah.
I almost said Technica. this map's kind of got a very heavy jump pad feel to it.
Yes.
You know, it's also got this, I don't know, shiny futuristic facility feel to it. I like
I think it's just using the spacer shell materials, I guess. Yeah.
But I like the consistency and like door shapes and some of the hallway frames and stuff like that. I feel like that was a smart move. At the same time, I think I think we posted in the forums. It's like it's a little easy to get lost and stuff like that. And I think he's going to be working on that. So it's
it would definitely help to give some of those areas some more unique identifiers, right? Because you have this one central shaft going through here that connects in all four cardinal directions right now, and it's kind of tough to tell which direction you're really going, and just based on standing in that center area and looking around.
Yeah.
So if that's color or just architectural features or just certain defining hooks that kind of make the rooms a little bit more obvious. You know, at the same time too, one thing that we struggle with a lot is, right, you try a map for the first time and you're usually, you know, it's instinctively you're quick to judge whether or not you can find your way around, you know, because you feel like, oh, I've played all these maps, I should know my way easily. And first playtest feedback is usually negative based on people trying to still kind of get a grasp of the layout and learning the map as well. So that's always something to consider, right? Like,
yeah, everybody's lost for the first 2 or 3 playtests of a map.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, you don't want to leave out landmarking elements and then have your sort of insular playtest group then learn the map without those elements and tell you that it's good, because then as soon as you get it into the hands of new people, they're going to you'll have cemented your opinion that, you know, everything's fine, and then it's still just a labyrinth to new users.
Something to consider regardless, right? It goes both ways sometimes, but yeah.
But yeah, lots of cool potential in this map. You know, getting the right amount of jump pads in there versus, you know, what the goals are for gameplay. You know, I think will be a balancing act. But looking forward to seeing where this one goes.
It should be interesting to see how many people it would, you know, reasonably hold. Because hey, if somebody makes a 20-player map, that's totally valid and awesome, you know, for a 20-player server, right? Because a lot of the times we might end up playing, you know, a map that's for 4 people with 20 people on it right now, you know, or the opposite, right? If you play Sid Castle with 4 people in it, then you're probably not going to have that great a time finding people because it was kind of intentionally built to be big. So the flavor thing comes in again, where you kind of want to have all extremes of that spectrum, right?
So yeah, Ars Kinetica is by Hymnal, and so we just wanted to say, you know, it's looking really promising.
Next up is DM Deck by Chung Lee, DM Deck C Lee, I guess it is.
Yeah, so he's been working on this one since pretty early, after we put the project files up there, and it's a variant on DM Deck 16. And he's, you know, trying some new ideas, trying to inject some life and some flavor into a variant version of the map.
Yeah,
so
some interesting ideas in here for sure.
I have to say though, every time I've seen this map and played around with it, it screams out, "Make me a CTF map." It really does.
I'd be surprised if there isn't a CTF version of this out there somewhere for one of the UTs.
Yeah, but the new areas that he opened up on here, I think even if it ends up being an asymmetrical CTF map, I think it's got a really good flow for it.
Definitely interesting. Yeah.
We would have to, somebody would have to set it up and we'd have to play it, of course, but I definitely think that's an interesting avenue to go with this.
Yeah.
I think one of the standout features is having the weapon positions moved around. I think that's going to be, besides some of the platforming opportunities that he's injected in there, and you know, and he's injected a lot of platforming opportunities, which is really cool. I love that. You know, the weapon position changes, except for the flak there, but plenty of the others are, I think, will make the map feel different. And you know, it could just be a fun change of pace for this map. One thing I do really like is the ledges that were added to the left of here, making it easier kind of underneath where the Redeemer location was, to use that space. So lots of cool ideas.
It's really cool. Some things to keep in mind too, though, is the more shortcuts you add, right? Like the more some areas lose their identities and kind of their focus too, right? Like you make things a little bit too porous if you're not careful. So getting too porous is definitely can be a concern.
but certainly in this case, I think he's trying to break some of the identity. And so we'll just see if that's what people are enjoying out of this one versus the original. But yeah, I mean, definitely you have to make sure you don't lose what's interesting about the gameplay of a space. Like, for example, the flak cannon spawn in the original map that has the goo pit beneath it, he added that like dodge shortcut from where the rocket spawn originally was. And I wonder if that sort of cheapens the design of that room. But, you know, it's
Well, I
probably
think it
too early
will
to say.
for DM,
I think
right?
it's also somewhat different now. Like, I mean, in UT99, we didn't have weapon stay on by default for free for all. I mean, like, obviously it depends on what kind of game type you're playing. If you're playing team deathmatch or something competitively, then it's different. But like now, I find that I almost never go after that flak cannon. Where I used to in UT99 and Unreal, that was really valuable because it was a weapon that was more frequently there because it was a little bit more risky to get. So if you needed a weapon, that was a place you knew you could go. But now that with weapon stay on, that's
like
devalued.
you said too, super game type specific in TDM. If you're playing with weapon stay off and you're struggling to find a gun, then everything kind of gets a little bit more valuable, right?
Yeah.
And also for porousness, you know, and general deathmatch porousness isn't necessarily that bad because you're kind of going for more mayhem chaos anyways. But once you start playing kind of TDM with area control and stuff like that, and you typically want to kind of make sure that the areas that you can enter a map from are really well thought out, and you know, you can't necessarily fall into somebody's back on every location. You need to kind of be able to position yourself in such a way that you're okay, these 2-3 entrances in front of me I need to watch, otherwise I'm safe, right? And you can't break that promise. So that's
But yeah, very very cool. Really neat architectural elements, even in a shell. Like, you know, I kind of like it the way that it is. The Deck Chung-Li's version. So I think it's pretty good work for sure.
Yeah, but just back to that comment, and I don't know if that's something that we always pay enough attention to, but I mean, really, weapon placement is something you should think about, both for the case of kind of the casual free-for-all weapon stay mode, but also
absolutely.
when weapon stay is off, and I mean, for team deathmatch where you've got area control or having varying trade-offs between how accessible a weapon is, so that you can take risks when you really need that weapon and things like that.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I mean, and to me, some of the really standout features of any of the old, great, classic UT maps really are, you know, deck. You can play one-on-one, TDM, or FFA. Like, if a deathmatch map works well in all these three categories, then you've kind of hit the nail on the head for, you know, as far as universal, I don't know, coolness of the map goes. I don't know. But
yeah, not every map needs to be that way, though. I mean, like, I know that I think it was Quillian's working on, he wants to make a small one-on-one map, and being targeted in that way is totally fine, too. So lots of options for sure. Yeah. So we should move to the next map.
All right, next up is CTF. Anybody want to take CG?
Syzygy?
Syzygy?
We had a character named Syzygy.
Did we?
Yeah. So this is by JO+, and I think he's evolved this map a few times, one of the earlier ones that he started submitting to the forums, and we've got a video, Chumbo's streaming it, his play in it, so we'll sort of let it speak for itself.
This is yet another one of those maps where I really like the fact that there's a lot of cover, a lot of things to dodge behind.
Yeah, lots of cool brushwork and architecture going on in this space too.
Yeah. But even like that room right there, right? There's a lot of chance to be strafing and dodging behind that cover as you're back running as a flag carrier.
Infinite charges. But yeah, you can see it's even in the shell form, he's got different elements in there that are telling you how big the spaces are even before he translocates into them and stuff. And it's definitely kind of indicates where it would be if it was meshed out and detailed.
Yeah. I unfortunately haven't really gotten a chance to actually play this one yet. I've just been looking at the videos. But one of the things that I pointed out to him in his feedback, just based on that video earlier too, was like, it'd be interesting to see what this map would do with a more defined midfield, you know, which
Yeah.
sometimes that's just a per map choice, right? And some maps are perfectly fine not having a well-defined midfield where you can kind of sneak through and just have short, brief clashes. Other times it really helps to have this one big breather area for pacing in the middle where you get a chance to catch up to people. And
It's sort of like the CTF Gauntlet sort of thing, where in Gauntlet, if there is technically like a midfield room, but it, you know, most of the map can kind of feel a little bit like a labyrinth. One thing I'll say that I like that JO Plus has done with not only the way that he's been posting on the forums, but the way that he's been releasing his maps and updating people is he's been releasing them and then calling them like WIP, you know, work in progress version 4 and then work in progress version 5, and it makes it easier for people to understand what differences there are between the different revisions, and I just think, you know, that's a good process for anybody that wants to sort of work with people in the forums and post updates, is sort of denote what version it is. I know others have done that as well. I like the cleanliness of just whip 1, whip 2, whip 3.
Yeah, it's a good approach.
Yeah.
Also like to encourage, you know, we don't always get as much time as we like to actually spend time on the forums and comment on things too, right? We're definitely trying the best we can, but also like to encourage other people to continue to keep giving people helpful feedback, you know, because we've seen a lot of that and it's awesome to see, and, you know, it's just great community synergy to see people jump in and give positive feedback on things, negative feedback, criticize things, but in a, you know, very helpful manner, not so much in a standoffish manner.
Adversarial or something. Yeah, and the thing is, you don't even have, as a creator or as a poster, you don't have to agree with somebody else's feedback for it to still be useful. I mean, you could disagree with somebody, and, you know, that's still useful to you because it can kind of inform you of what you believe in, and so that can sort of cement your position on some, let's say it's a room in a map that you're working on. It can kind of tell you, okay, you know what? I really believe in this room, and as you're looking to improve and iterate on your own map, you can target other spaces for iteration rather than that.
Also suggest to kind of take everything in and digest it, but don't make knee-jerk reactions just because, you know.
Yeah.
It's easy to rabbit hole that way.
You kind of want to see where the trends go before you just react to every little piece of feedback, especially if it involves a big major change, right? Like sometimes it's better to just kind of see how it plays out, and maybe it's not really an issue, and that oftentimes tends to be true. But
and always remember,
really cool
it's your map, right?
Yeah, no one's going to force you. There's no map police that's going to force you to make the change. So,
Map Police sounds like an awesome Easter egg.
Yeah.
All right, our next map is CTF X Sector by Soprano Object.
So I don't think I have found a download link for this one yet, but
I'm sure one's in here.
Yeah, I know that he's provided a bunch of images. There's a video. It kind of has the same sort of layout feel as Syzygy in the sense that it's very sort of corridor based. You know, I think he mentioned that this was his first project in Unreal Engine, so
it's obviously much smaller too, right?
Yeah, it's a smaller map. It's more vertical, and it also appears to be sort of a mirrored symmetry map. Or actually, I think it's rotational, but it is quite symmetrical. So that'll be interesting to see if that's going to be maintained, or if he intends to sort of vary one side up versus the other.
Yeah.
He's got this upper power-up room, which I think is the signature X sector part of the theme of it. Good start for someone that's just starting to use Unreal for the first time.
Same with CTF2, as with Deathmatch. It's nice to have, you know, variety in size for CTF maps, and have some smaller, faster-paced ones that you can play with lower player counts as well. So it's definitely a plus.
All right, so next up is CTF Helm's Deep 2014 by Platinum Spider.
So this is a remake, and you know it's notable because I'm pretty sure this is like a Instagib map, or at least is played generally Instagib. His video capture, I think, is still of a sort of work-in-progress version, in the sense that I don't think he's released it yet for playtesting. But one thing with our wall maneuvers, you can see he's trying some of that hallway shape will provide opportunities to avoid insta-jib fire and sort of mess with people in these upper areas. So I think that'll be really interesting. And the pantheon of guns.
Yep, that'd actually be nice to see people embrace more of the kind of non-vertical wall and try putting in more slopes and maps and providing opportunities for the new movement things that are in the game now. So
Yeah.
get some really fun situations going.
And the other neat thing is that it allows us to keep some of the wall surfaces clean when we go to mesh them instead of vertical columns and other things that are, whether you snag on them, via lack of blocking volume or the actual collision, or it just looks that way.
Or maybe your brain just snags on it because you think you're going to get stuck.
that is that exists, that whole sort of mental element where I know, what was it, DM Diesel in UT3, we had this whole lower area with pipes and other things like that, and there was like a T-section, and the pipe meshes were cylindrical running along the length of the hallway, and there were sort of little clips and bindings to them, and all of those meshes had their collision turned off, and we put a blocking volume flat across that surface, and our playtest feedback kept coming like, I'm snagging in this room on all the surfaces, and it was really just mental.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
All right, so the next one is DM Egypt Temple Tombs by France.
So, sort of a divisive theme. Some people love the Egypt, some people don't. I personally think that cool, large, ancient temples are awesome, and I could, I have no problem with that. Looking at the first pass version of the map, some of the feedback is to try to get some of that architectural feel and stuff into the map. It's kind of got a crypt feel to it, and I know he's got the pyramids and other stuff outside. So hopefully, playing up some of the sort of massive temple to your deities will be.
You also want to be careful
cool.
to not just have too many kind of linear hallways running through your map, where you kind of just funnel people through these minute runs of not having any path of divergence.
Yeah, it's the corridor room syndrome that you kind of want to try to avoid, where you don't give people interesting choices.
Yeah. Which sometimes even that is valid, though, right? Like as long as the rooms kind of offer their own very unique gameplay spaces. But if once you get stuck in pure hallway, then you have to be careful with that.
Yeah, I mean, you can have rooms and hallways that lead into rooms, but generally what you want to do is have it so that players have choices about how they want to enter a room. And give them the ability to change their mind depending, on a sort of tactical level.
Especially for iconic power-up placement like shield belt or U-damage, whatever, right? I mean, you want to put that in a spot where people have multiple chances of attacking that space, and it's not just a kind of one-way street that you're brute forcing your way down, which, again, sometimes that in a
sure, that
very
works if
particular
you're doing
situation,
kill zone, right?
It works, right? But you want to be careful not to lean towards that too much across the entire space.
Yeah, but definitely notable for theme attempting to get to, one of the UT 2003, 2004 themes, and fix that jump pad, Fonz.
It really does feel like a Quake 3 map to me, where you're playing outside and you have a lot of jump pad play. I think that's going to be, skeet shooting heaven. Next is DM Hydraulics by Rast.
I'm not sure if you actually had a newer video than that. Let me fire that up real quick.
Yeah, Rast has been contributing and giving comments to lots of other people on their maps, not just on his own. So that's great. That's a good.
Gonna give everybody motion sickness.
Yeah, scroll really fast. Okay, yeah, it looks like the latest one. V2. So Hydraulics has got sort of like a main central room in it with a sort of power up high and power up low element. There's below the ad, there's I think U damage he's got down there. and there's a sniper area up high. The rocket is in a room below, and he said he was going to fix the lift animations. I sort of complained to him about that. And
yeah, it's a little weird not having those be responsive.
well, he's going to use the generic lift. There's a blueprint that was created. Sid, you made that, right? Or did Nick make that?
Made that.
So anyway, there's a blueprint that you can use called generic lift, where you can essentially just plop it down and choose where you want the lift to end, choose the time.
Pick a mesh, pick a material.
Yeah, and you pretty much don't have to do any other work. You don't need to set up matinee. You don't need to mess with any kind of scripting. It's super handy.
Yeah, let me step back and say even more strongly recommend that. So the work I've been doing on fixing lifts is basically I've created a C++ superclass UT lift that generic lift is based off of. So all lifts should really either be based off the generic lift blueprint or at least the UT lift base class, because that's what's got fixed lift handling. If you make your lift with some blueprint and matinee that doesn't use that, it's just not going to work right.
So if you want to make your own new blueprint, you can load up the class viewer and find that the native class and just blueprint off of it, and then you can use that and change the properties, change how it works.
I would actually even start with the generic. I would start with the generic lift and copy it, because it's still got blueprint code hooked up to take advantage of the C++ functionality, and so you can always change and add features like you want, or change the functionality, but at least you'll start with the working lift.
All right, next up is DM JSON by Huckle.
So Jason's gotten some feedback on this map, and he's going for a larger player count, and I think we're awaiting his sort of follow-up update to the map and various changes.
It's definitely a huge one too.
Yeah, there's a sort of a scale factor in the map that maybe needs adjustment.
One thing I actually saw pointed out from somebody in the thread on this map too was, there's lots of cool iconic locations in here, like that room that we just saw earlier with the 2 elevators in it, for example, right? Yeah. That kind of scream, put a weapon here, make me a focal point.
I just posted about that like earlier today. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. The double lift area was cool.
The 5-pad spot there was a cool spot too. That kind of had a very narrow approach and something that you could imagine holding, but you probably wouldn't want to hold it for some 5-pads, right? Like they're not necessarily the top of the line power-ups. They're kind of more supplemental, right? So
iPads can't get any love, I guess.
But they still count, right? But you don't build an entire room around a pair of 5-pads.
That's true. So. And there's a lot of rooms in this map, and trying to make sure that there is the sort of right amount of real estate so that you're getting players because you could have a 15-player map and have everybody focused in one room and it just turns to spam. And that's not good. You could have 10 unused rooms, and so making sure that every room has a purpose and isn't wasted space is kind of a requirement.
Yeah, there's lots of really cool stuff in here. But one other thing too I'd like to point out is when you start separating different rooms and hallways and such, you always try and pay attention to how thick you're making the walls between those spaces, because especially once it comes down to eventually meshing a map, you kind of want to make sure that you give yourself enough wiggle room to, kind of shift things in outwards a little bit if you need to, without having to worry too much about how that's going to end up looking up, from both sides always. So.
All right. Well, that's all of them. So I guess anybody else have anything?
Yeah, for all the maps that we didn't feature, please keep posting and updating. We'll do this type of update on the stream again sometime, and we're obviously excited to see everything that everybody's working on and the collaboration within the forums and the community. It's been awesome.
Yep.
And we have some new people who just received their contributor tags over the past couple days, so shouts out to them. And I guess that's it. So be sure to tune in again next week. I don't know what we're doing yet, but and then the Engine Twitch stream is tomorrow at 2 p.m. They got some cool stuff, cool demos that are going to be shown off. So I guess that's it.
Great. Thanks.
See you next week.
Have fun.